So today I want to share with you more about triggers and how you can actually use them to stop your emotional eating. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle and I'm a certified holistic nutritionist specializing in emotional eating. And I wanted to talk about triggers because I think that they can be a little bit misunderstood with our emotional eating. Yes, triggers are important and we need to be aware of them, but I think the way we've been using them, they don't help us get to the root. Instead, what we do is we notice our triggers and we avoid them. So emotional eating itself is an avoidance mechanism, and avoiding triggers are just avoiding the pattern further. And so we need to go deeper. Because when we can go deeper and get to the root of this, we can resolve our emotional eating and we won't have to deal with the emotional eating pattern, and we can look at what's coming up in our life directly and make changes from there. So emotional eating is, what tends to happen is that when we emotionally eat, we're usually triggered into it. Something happens and in our life, maybe a stressful event, we're around certain people, whatever it is, and we're like, this is our trigger. And what might happen is we start changing our current life because of these triggers. We start changing the triggers or the things that are creating the triggers and thinking, oh, we're resolving our pattern. Or we notice the trigger and then we walk away from it. We go for a walk, we distract, we willpower. We're like, we're not going to let that trigger get us. And so we willpower and do a lot of these things, but that's not helping our emotional eating. We might be able to extend the time between binges or willpower our way through that, but we're not actually resolving this pattern. We're still in this coping mechanism. We're just delaying it. And so we have to look at all of the things triggering us in our day-to-day life as a doorway, as a gateway to something deeper that's going on. And so those triggers are giving us information about what's going on a deeper level, and we need deeper tools to access them. And so the trigger is not necessarily what's going on in your day-to-day life. The trigger is guiding you to something that would have happened most likely at an earlier age. What actually created this emotional eating pattern, what created this coping mechanism, and that's usually in childhood. We had an unresolved event, something that happened that we weren't able to move through. We didn't have the parents or caregivers there to guide us through this process, to help regulate us, to see, hear, and honor us, validate, understand us. And so this emotion, unresolved emotions get stuck in our body, and it's now a trigger, and it gets triggered in our day-to-day life. And so if we go and try to change our day-to-day life without looking at the deeper root and resolving it there, we're not going to have sustainable change with our emotional eating. we're going to still have the pattern. So we need to use those triggers to go deeper. And so what I see with a lot of my clients, sometimes we're not even aware of our triggers. We just are really dissociated. So we're eating, we're constantly hungry, and I was the same, not knowing what's triggering us. Something might have triggered us today, but we kind of can put off our emotional eating with willpower, and a few days later it kind of builds up and then we want to eat then. And so we can become dissociated from it. Or maybe we're really aware, I had a stressful day, X, Y, and Z happened, and so this is triggering me. I need to sort out the day-to-day life. And it's not necessarily that either. Because we have this unresolved situation in our body, the trigger is leading us to it. It was not resolved, so it actually clogs up our capacity to deal with our day-to-day things. So we need to get to the root and process and integrate it and resolve it at that root level so we can move forward and create true change, aligned change. Because if we start making changes without going to the deeper root, they're not going to give us the results we want. So how do we do this? How do we get into our triggers? So it might seem obvious. Oh, I was triggered. I'm going to start looking around my life. What's triggering me? For emotional eaters, this is a little bit different. And what I find with clients, we have to work through certain phases to get to those triggers. There's actually triggers in several areas around food, our body, our emotions. But to kind of simplify it for you, as emotional eaters, we can be triggered and think, I have clients look at their food and mood journal. They keep track of that so we can see where they're actually emotionally eating or feeling out of control with food, and look at the situation around that as an indicator of the doorway to the trigger or the deeper root. And so from that, we need to start with the basics. We need to start making sure we're nourishing ourselves a lot. We need to make sure we're deeply nourishing ourselves with food, because a lot of the times emotional eaters have a lot of diet mentality. They restrict food, and that triggers binging because the body, it doesn't have enough nutrients and calories. And so the brain is then turned on for obsession over food and binging and just wanting to get calories in. And so we need to look at that first so that we can then discern a trigger around we're not eating enough versus a true emotional trigger to go deeper. When we have that true emotional trigger, we take that into a deeper process. So inside of the emotional eating evolution program with clients, I can see their triggers and their patterns, and we use that as a doorway, as a key to going deeper into a process. And so we use somatic meditations with psychotherapy tools and other tools to go deeper, because the trigger, the root of it is in the body. These unresolved events and emotions live in the body. So we need to get to that core root issue and start doing some work at resolving it. When we're able to resolve it and meet those needs on the emotional level, other needs can emerge from there and other steps. We might need boundaries. We might need to change something in our day-to-day life. Or because we've met those deeper needs, we may not need to change anything. So all of the triggers that we think our kid is triggering us or our job, we actually have the capacity to be with them and deal with them and move through them and the tools to move through them. So this becomes a really important. We want to do the deeper work first before we start acting out and start, putting, dampening our triggers. And so triggers are going to be really important, but not in the way we've been taught. It's not like, yes, I recognize my trigger. Now I'm going to find a new situation for me, or my job is triggering me. It might not be your job. You're just associating something with your job. You need to do the deeper work to make a true choice for yourself. Because if you don't do that, what happens is you start changing things without doing the deeper work. You're going to repeat the same pattern in a new situation. And this is what happens when triggers are not resolved at the root. We keep repeating patterns until we kind of learn the lesson and resolve it. And so inside of the emotional eating evolution program, we are getting to the root. There is nothing I hate worse than just surface solutions. I always want clients to get to the root, to have that deep resolution, because that means we're shifting from a coping mechanism to we're now thriving and we're facing life and we have the tools to move through life. And that is how we get to ease and peace, because now we feel we're empowered with the right steps, the right tools to get to that ease and peace. And we realize that it's not really about control or willpowering. It's about getting that deep resolution. And that leads to us feeling at ease and peace in our life, but in our body. And that shifts us so that we start feeling that confidence in ourselves, in our body and around food on a somatic, on a nervous system level. So if what I'm saying to you today resonates and you want to dive deeper into your emotional eating pattern, you want to resolve your triggers, you want to stop, just plugging the holes, and you want deep resolution, then I'd love to invite you to find out more about the emotional eating evolution program. In this program, we go deep into your triggers, resolving them at the root. You will be shown and given powerful tools to move through that. You'll have the coaching and guidance to move through that and the support, so you can finally resolve your emotional eating and start feeling confident in your body and around a food. So I'll put the link below. And if you would love to join us in the program, the next step after that would be to book in an emotional eating clarity call. On the call, we find out more about you, what your goals are, and how we can support you in the program and give you your next best steps. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.